What brings you the most clients? Now, this is a question from someone on YouTube, and it was basically directed around kind of rank the importance of different aspects. What brings in the clients most? Like YouTube, the client list and body of work, equipment, all these different things. And what brings in the most work? They all contribute. Every one of those, each of those three things, they all contribute massively. YouTube, these videos, this contributes massively, because I know that myself, because when people place orders, often they say, love watching your videos, you've taught us a lot, and that's lovely to hear. Equipment is something that YouTube brings. For instance, YouTube and social media in general, that gets you out there, and that gets people to the site. For instance, that gets people in. Once they're in, the equipment and body of work sells what it is that they're kind of looking at buying into. For instance, here's a scenario. Imagine I'm sitting here now and I've got two speakers behind me, a laptop and a keyboard and mouse. That's very hard to sell. Even if we could both, like in both studios, you had a studio that was 100% digital, two speakers, laptop, mouse, keyboard, that was it. Even if the two end results came out identical, this studio would turn over probably, I'd say even like 20 to 50 times more work than a studio with just a laptop and speakers. And I know that. I know how well this sort of equipment kind of sells itself. And so the social media aspect is the big thing that draws people in. We get a lot of clients that follow us online, and they might not work with us straight away, but they'll follow the Instagram, Facebook, whatnot, and then come over to, they might then later, 6 months down the line, after seeing, these guys got, a lot of enthusiasm about mixing, mastering and audio equipment. They're just like me, which we are, we're all the same. We love audio equipment. And that draws the client in. That gets them into the website. The equipment, the studio, all of that sells the service. So I would put the importance and rank, if you had to rank it, I would put the importance of social media in as number one. However, the equipment and the client list, they're kind of what you'd more consider as the what would you call it, that they seal the deal. That then is the thing that you're more likely to click on an ad, for instance, or a link to something with a studio like this, rather than a laptop and some speakers, just because one screams professionalism and the other one screams kind of amateur kind of services. So there's a huge importance in social media. I know that because I do all our social media, and I see what comes through the door. I see what comes through to the website. The equipment. Without the equipment, it would be very hard to sell a service. And the reason the equipment is very important when it comes to this is that when a client looks at a studio like this and equipment like this, they look at it and go, "Oh, Blackbox HG2. Oh, I love them. I love that plugin. They've got the hardware. I wonder how that sounds." You must have all kind of felt that way. SPOI, and it's like, wow, I like the plugin's cool, but I'd really love for my track to be run through that. We get it on a kind of daily basis where people will say, you know, I want to, you know, I want this run through the Shadow Hills compressor. I want this run through the Unfairchild. I want this run through the Black Box. You know, all these kind of key pieces of equipment that really are attractive to the client. Because when something's a plugin and everybody gets used to it, and it's like, yeah, I love the plugin, you know, you want to know what your songs. And look, we all know that the plugin's cool, but the hardware is exceptional. So yeah, the equipment's a big thing. And then the thing with a client list is, it's like, if you're looking for a client list, and I've said this in podcasts before, where like when it comes to a client list, is, you know, people look through the client list and they see, oh wow, they've done Avengers, they've done Frozen 2, they've done all these different projects, you know, and they go, well, you know, if they've done that, they're more than capable with my band, or, you know, that's the kind of the way someone would look at that. So a client list is very, very important. Equipment is equally as important. It's all ways of what the equipment and what the client list is it's the convincer. It's saying, you know, I use high-end equipment, I get a high-end result. Whereas if someone's sitting there with a laptop, it's like, well, even if you can get a great result, I could potentially get the same result as you, because we're all using the same stuff. Whereas when you've got all this analog equipment, it does put you into a different realm to someone who's working in the box, because it's an unobtainable sound, or it's something they'll never be able to achieve themselves. So having your song mastered through analog equipment is something special to people, and it is special, and it does sound incredible. So yeah, I mean, in terms of importance, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these different social media platforms, that's the number one. But then without the kind of the client list, and without the equipment, and without the service to back it up, it's no good. So you could have the best social media reach in the world, but if everyone landing on your website looked at it and went, oh, I don't, you know, they're turned off, and you're not going to make as many sales. I know this as a fact. I know the more equipment that we add, and the more unique equipment that we add, the more attractive the service becomes. And that's why we add certain pieces of equipment. You know, we added the Unfairchild because it's an Unfairchild, it's a Fairchild, it's a 670M Mark II. It's an incredible sounding piece of kit, but it's also a showpiece. It's this really attractive compressor. Same with the Shadow Hills and the Alpha compressor. Everybody looks at them and goes, wow, I want my song run through them. So yeah, I mean, the important one is the important one is the social media aspect. That brings a lot of clients in. Then once they're in, it's like, here's what you can have your song run through, and everybody, no matter who you are, you know, you all will look at an analog mastering chain of kind of like this, or like Nick's one in his studio, and go, wow, yeah, I want my song run through that. And that's, you know, I'm an honest geezer when it comes to these sorts of videos, and that's the honest answer. It's all well and good drawing people in and getting people onto the website to then be able to sell the service. Now here's one thing I'll mention is, like, when we first started this business in 2012, we started with 0 clients. So we had 0 clients. So we bought over a few from different projects from before, but we literally started from the ground up. So we had 0 client list, and we had to then build that over time, and gradually we did, to now the point where, you know, we've got a client list that's ridiculous. It really is unbelievable how this client list has evolved, and it becomes a lot easier to sell a service when you've got a client list looking like that and you've got equipment like this. It's very easy. You don't have to work hard to sell a service. The service sells itself when you're surrounded by this. And I know full well that, because I've watched the business grow as the equipment's grown and as the studios have grown. It's all massively helpful. Every single aspect of this is very important. Number one, social media. First, get them in. Equipment, client list, that sells itself if it's good.